Hello everybody, welcome back. clipsvh here as always, and we're back in East Origin, and we're still playing as Hugo, and this is it. We are in endgame territory here. When we left off, we defeated the Mantid boss, and Hugo made a deal with the devil. You know, we saw there were a lot of, like, kind of anime moments in the last part. Wonder if we'll see any more of those. So, in this part, the enemies are going to be a tiny bit tougher, but one thing that you're going to notice right away is that they're dropping a whole lot more SP than they were before. So, if you wanted to purchase any of those Goddess statue upgrades, then during this tier would be the best time to do that. Mostly because of exactly how much more they're dropping. They drop quite a bit more. So these guys are kind of annoying. They throw the little buzzsaws. They're a little weaker to the thunder element, but I find it easier to just stand at a distance and just shoot at them. The confused status effect is really annoying. I think it's really annoying anyway. What it does is it basically inverts your directional input. So when you press up, you go down, or left, you go right. Oddly enough, though, it doesn't mess with Hugo's charge shot. So, like, if you're confused and thinking that hitting down and stopping and hitting the attack button will make you attack, like, forward or upward, that's not the case. So, this tier is going to be a little longer than the last couple of ones, even though the last couple of ones were pretty long all on their own. That's because in this tier we're going to be fighting more bosses. More bosses than we were in the last couple of tiers. I don't know if that's to make up for the last tier that had no middle boss. It only had that one boss. Right away, I'm gonna switch to fire element because that takes things out like a lot quicker anyway. It works on these slimes anyway because the thing about fire element is that it hit stuns things, so it keeps us from attacking us rather. Now, upward is the right way to go, but I don't want to go that way just yet. Instead, I'm gonna go to the right here. And a well-timed double jump could make that, but I don't think so. We're going to come right down here, and we're going to get this chest. And after we defeat this slime, inside of this chest is going to be a Rotafruit, which we're actually going to find the rue that Rotafruit goes to right away, actually. We're going to find that rue pretty quick. Now we're going to come right down here, just to beat these enemies. Now these enemies are kind of like stronger versions of the enemies we saw in the last couple of tiers. And they have a spinny attack, and their spinny attack is really annoying because it causes the confuse status effect. And like I said, it's not really the most fun status effect. There's also a lot of stairs on this tier. So we're just going to keep calm and carry on. Take out some of these enemies. Pick up the herbs so in case you need them so you don't die. Now these are red glowy guys, and there's really no safe way to, there's no like safe vantage point to attack them from, so I'm just gonna charged mines, and I'm gonna run up to them and just kind of ding-dong ditch them. Since a charged mine will pretty much just, it's guaranteed to take them out in one go. I'm gonna come up here, and as you can see all the way back there, you can see already the Roo is over there. So literally like one room away. This whole half of the game, the Roos have been rather close to the fruits. Like, they could have just found the fruit themselves. So you may notice that some of the Rotafruit, or rather some of the Roos, are actually kind of important. They give you things that you need to proceed. This one I don't think you necessarily need to proceed, but it's definitely useful. He's going to give us burst mode, and what burst mode does is when we hit the boost button, we hit the boost button again, and we get like the super powerful attack. For Hugo, he gets a shield that's basically like a lot stronger than his regular shield. It's not really a shield, it's kind of like a barrier, really. Which I know sounds really stupid because a barrier and a shield are basically the same thing, but it's not really like a shield, is what I'm trying to get at. I'm probably not going to use it too much, because for the most part, unless we're like at really low health and some enemies are giving us too much trouble, I don't really see the need for it. Burst mode is very useful if we play as the unlockable guy though, but that's for something that happens a bit later. And there's that confuse effect. It's a really annoying effect. I know I said poison was annoying before, but this is actually much more annoying than poison. So there was another way we can go before, like right after we gave the Roo its Rotafruit. And there's a mirror up there, but we can't do anything with the mirror. It'll go up to it and the narration will just say there's some other world in the mirror. And without a special item, we can't actually access that other world in the mirror. So we have to go into another room to find it. You know, like the rest of the game. Which is fine. So I'm going to charge my fire up and just try to hit this guy, but I ended up falling. That's not what I wanted to do, because that's not really the quickest way to get this done. But it doesn't really matter, because we're going to have to come down here anyway, so at the very least, while I'm down here, I can clear out these enemies. Anyway, the reason we would want to come down here is that right there, that chest. And there are some red guys we have to kill in order to open it up. But unfortunately, they're not on this part of the room, so we're going to have to get back to where we need to be. However, falling down here by accident is kind of a mixed blessing, because we can open this up and get some Claria Garb, which is the strongest armor in the game. This is the last one we're going to get. And so we can just put that right on. Now, I mentioned before that I kind of think the whole armor strengthening and legging strengthening blessing from the goddess statue is kind of pointless until you get the strongest armor and leggings in the game. So if I were to upgrade my armor, which I'm not going to bother, this would be the armor I do it with. So there's the first red glowy guy, and these are the guys we gotta beat in order to get to that chest. Now, it's important we beat them and get to that chest because there's a key we need to get, and it's actually important to get that key because we are actually going to end up using it, like, right away. And there we go. So now that chest is unlocked, I'm going to defeat this enemy, and now I'm going to take a really quick trip to go all the way back down there and get the chest. So I know I said fire element was our best friend for the last couple of tiers, but I'm probably not going to rely on it too much in this tier, mostly because more enemies in this tier are a little bit weaker to the thunder element. And I don't know if that's actually what it's called. I don't think it's actually called thunder element, but I like to call it thunder element. So that's 3 down. There's 2 more to go. There's 5 glowy guys here. And what they're guarding is a goddess statue, so we're going to use that, and we're going to get our full health, and we're going to save. Because coming up is a boss. Already. Like I said, there are actually more bosses on this tier. In the last ones, we had, like, maybe 2 bosses, 1 mid-boss, 1 guardian demon, so 2 bosses a tier. And the last tier, we actually had 1 boss for the entire thing. Here, we're going to be fighting a total of 4 bosses, and that's also including the final boss. So this first one coming up, we're going to use the obsidian key to get him. And the first boss we're going to fight is Kishgul over there. Now, if we were playing as Unica, we'd be fighting Epona here instead. In Unica's story, Epona would still be alive at this point. But in Hugo's story, because Hugo's a piece of shit, she's dead. I know I give Hugo a hard time, but this is actually the tier, this part of the game is actually where he starts getting a lot better. So I'll have a lot less reason to be making fun of him, and I'm probably going to stop at this point right now. So it turns out that Kishgul is Epona's big bro, and he wants to fight Hugo, because Hugo is pretty much the reason she died. This is Kishgul, and most of his attacks are comprised of ice. He'll make like a big V shape with those ice stalagmites. He'll also rain down big icicles on you, and he'll also shoot icicles at you, so you want to watch out for that. That ice can hurt you, and he'll do that little spin attack that he just did. And he'll also just kind of come at you with his big halberd, his big hand axe. One thing that's kind of good is you can use your fire element to kind of break the ice without getting hurt by it. But I'm sticking with the barrier or the shield rather, because it's a lot more reliable, I think, in this fight than the fire. He also shoots these dragons at you, and you want to avoid those. I think the best way to do it is go into like a short circle and kind of do a little bit of a double jump. That way it tracks you upwards and just flies off the stage. Now, I think the shield is a little bit more reliable because you can take a couple hits with the shield up. You can't really do that so much with the fire element. Although you could hit stun him, I suppose, if you wanted to. You also cannot use burst mode on him, because if you did, he'd activate that little magic shield he's got that he'll use on occasion to keep you from, like, just cheesing the fight. So to avoid him using that, you don't want to use burst mode, because he'll use that right away, and he'll keep it up for as long as your burst mode is up. And so that's something I don't want happening, so I'm just not I didn't bother to use burst mode. Now this cutscene is actually really cool and it's really ominous, and I only have like literally one problem with it, and that is that Ys and Solomon Shrine look a lot smaller in this cutscene and all the succeeding ones than the intro kind of implies. And if you take a look at that crater, it's supposed to be like huge. And again, I guess it is like a huge, massive, magical tentacles too, so. So for a second there, it almost looked like it was going to be a two-stage boss fight, but in reality, that was it. And this is the nondescript rod, and that's going to be the item we're going to need to go into the mirror. So it turns out we had an item in our inventory. It wasn't always accessible until now, but we had an item in our inventory, and that talisman is going to give us the ability to come back from the dead, so when we hit 0 health, we get full health again, so essentially we get like an extra life. A lot of games have something like that, and every Ys game I played so far seems to have something like that. But whenever I have one of those items, I always kind of take it as the game challenging me not to use it. And so, of course, having actually completed this game, I'm not even going to bother using it. So now, you could take your crystal shortcut and go back to the first statue of this tier, but it's a lot faster to get to the mirror from this room, mostly because while it is a kind of windy and sort of convoluted path, it's also like literally one room over and it's a lot quicker. It's really tricky remembering that strong charge shot is not affected by the confusion effect. Because you're always so prepared to, like, tap to the right and expect it to go left, but that's not what happens. You tap to the right and then it goes right. It's kind of odd. Now, be careful not to fall into the hole when you're on your way back, because then you're going to have to backtrack all the way around and you're going to have to come over here again. And it's like I've been saying this whole playthrough, you know, doing things over and over again is not the most fun thing in the world. So we're gonna come up this little thing that pushes us up. We're gonna beat these enemies over here. And this little pushy, uppy thing is gonna take us right up to the place where we need to go, which is where the mirror is. First we're gonna beat these guys if, let me drop down for that SP. I'm still confused. And being on the edge when you've got that confusion status effect is also not the most fun thing in the world. Because you can really easily fall off just like that. So in we go, into the Hall of Reflection. Now, if we go straight, that'll just take us back outside, so don't go that way unless you want to go back outside. Instead, I'm going to come this way, and first I'm going to go to the right here. Now, the thing to remember about the Hall of Reflection is that this area here is probably the closest the game ever gets to being anything like a labyrinth. And that's mostly because of these mirrors teleporting us to different parts of this room. Now, it's really hard because some mirrors will actually go to the same place. And depending on which mirror you go through, you might not actually get to a certain place at all. So, what I'm going to do here, and what you should do, is I'm going to try and be as thorough as I possibly can. Because there are a couple chests here with things we're going to want and need. And so it's best to just get them. So the enemies here aren't really big. We got these little things that go invisible and shoot bullets at us. We have these little things with wings that mew like cats when we kill them, and it's like adorable in a really sad kind of way because you kill them and they just go like mew. Then we have like stronger versions of those like magician monsters. And you see that? You see that hesitation there? That right there is me wanting to be thorough. That mirror that I almost entered, that I didn't want to enter, if I am not mistaken, is the right way to go. And we don't want to go the right way. At least not just yet. Not until we've gotten everything there is to get in the room. And since there is a chest on the way through that mirror, you know, that also helps us get everything we can. So in here, we're going to find another Celcetin Panacea, none of which we've found so far I've actually used. So that way just brings us right back here, so we have to go the right way for this. And there's another chest. There's that chest I was mentioning before. And there's some Calaria ore in this chest, and we know exactly where to go for that. But I don't want to go to Rico just yet, because when we go through that big mirror, we're going to find a goddess statue, and we'll be able to save and have another teleport point. But I don't want to go into that big mirror just yet, because as you can see back there in the distance, there are still more things we have to do, and more parts of this room to get to. So, there's some more of that hesitation. I'm going to go up this way, which we haven't been to yet. Now, even if you don't want the chest and stuff, it works to our advantage to be thorough, because, you know, at the very least, killing all the enemies will get you some experience, and getting those chests, I don't know why you wouldn't want to get those chests. And that last mirror we walked into, not that one, but the one before it, is one of those cases I was talking about, where some mirrors just lead you to the same place. Like, you could start in a certain place, and then you branch off left or right, and then you can go to another one where you branch off left or right, and if you pick the wrong direction, it'll take you right back to the start, and you have to go back to those branching paths again, just like this. Luckily, since it's only like one mirror away, it's really not that big a deal. This time, rather going to the left, we're going to go to the right. Of course, we've got a few enemies to fight here. Now, those cat magicians that keep mewing, there's some 20,000 SP if you needed it. They cast little healing spells, and remember what I said about healing enemies that heal each other before. If you can catch the little green ball of healing that they throw, you yourself can heal off of their attack. Well, it's not really an attack so much as it is like them assisting each other. Point still stands though. You can catch the heal wave. I think this should be one of the last mirrors we haven't been to, but I think this is also a part of the room we have been to. This room is kind of weird like that. It does things, it messes with your head by having the mirrors go to the same places. And since it is the same place, I'm not even going to bother going back, but now I have to. I hesitate, because I want to be thorough. But of course, all that's going to get me is I'm going to end up right back here. And we've already been through here. Of all the rooms in the game, of all the parts in this game, this one is probably the most confusing. For me, anyway. But remembering the way out is pretty easy, so once you got that down, you know where to go at least. The chest containing ESP isn't as important, but I would definitely get the chest with the Claria ore. Which, it's on the way out, so it's really hard to miss. If you're hurting for health and you want to raise your max health, I would also go for the Celset and Panacea chest, since that will help towards that. Now we can go up or down, and up will go in one way, and down will go into a mirror that brings us back to the Hall of Reflection. But for now, I'm going to use the crystal to go to the tower base, and we're going to go talk to Rico, so he can increase the power of our weapon. Thanks for saying something generic, Rico. So now, as Rico's going to mention, that is the last piece of Claria ore in the game. This is as strong as our weapon is going to get. Our weapon is basically at max level right now. Now, immediately, I'm going to warp right back to the Hall of Reflection. Now, we're going to quickly save, and we're going to go right to the next boss. Because there's a boss in this place, too. There's a lot of bosses here. So now Zava's gonna she's gonna play the villain taunt card. And Hugo is going to play the denied card. Damn, Hugo. You went from being a little shit to being kinda cool really quick. So now Zava's going to say that this big magic spell she's using on Hugo right now only works on people and won't work on demons. So if he uses his demon power, he'll be able to get out of that. Not really, but... If we played as Unica, she'd use something that looks pretty much exactly like that's basically supposed to kill her, and because she can't use magic, she can't do anything about it. But Hugo, on the other hand, can use magic. Unica ends up getting saved by Roy, but then Zava kind of pushes him aside like a villain would, and he ends up dying for his trouble. Yeah, that's right. Both of our protagonists' love interests kind of die in their stories. Although, I mean, you know, in Unica's story, it's kind of Roy's own fault. He did kind of trip a death flag by telling Unica he wanted to tell her something by the end of this. I'm not even kidding, that's what he says word for word. I have something to tell you when this is over. That's what he says to her. Anyway, so of course we can't just fight Zava by herself. She's gonna summon two familiars. And they're big giant heads. And they've got a body switching gimmick. Now, this fight's a little weird. It has like a couple different phases, and I kind of like that about certain boss fights. At first, Zava's just going to float around while she attacks us in tandem with the two big heads. And what we have to do is we have to jump up and shoot her down and then just wail on her when she falls flat on her face. It makes a funny little noise when she falls on her face, too. So, for now, one head will just breathe ice breath, and the other will just breathe fire breath, until Zava gets tired of our shit and decides to go inside of one of the heads. Now, if we end up on top of them, they'll just shake us off. And what we want to do is, you want to attack the head that got Zava in it. And they both do different things while Zava's inside the head. Now, occasionally they'll shoot lasers. The ice one will shoot lasers too. They'll also try to eat you, and you don't want to let that happen. When that happens, you want to do everything you can to get out of there, because you'll just lose health. You also want to try not to get hit by that laser. When you've done enough damage to the head, Zava's going to fall right out. And then you can just wail on her, and then you can just keep attacking her like we did before. So depending on which head she decides to do it to, the stage will turn into ice, and we have to run away from those icicles. Or it'll turn into lava, and we have to run away from the lava spouts. It also tries to pull us in and damage us if she chooses to put both heads into the ground, which we'll see later. So for now I'm going to switch to fire element, that way it's much easier to hit Ice Head from a distance. You want to keep jumping, or you want to use wind element or something, because even if you avoid the lava spouts, it's going to take a little bit of damage if you just stick on the ground like that. And that's a real annoying noise it makes when it pulls you in. And now she's gonna pull them both in. They're gonna give her some big kind of dagger sword, but they don't really do anything with it. Just kind of hits and makes a shockwave. If we're anywhere near that, it'll do a bit of damage to us. So at this point, her goose is pretty much cooked, and so we just gotta finish her off. And for our trouble, we get a full health recovery, and we level up. And for some reason, Zava's just sliding all over the floor. Yeah, there she goes! She wants out of this screen! Zava, you can't assume any kind of villain-like authority after what I just saw. Anyway, the only save point is behind us, and instead I'm going to move straight on. That's all the time we have for this time. I'll see you all next time.